Welcome everybody, Steve here. Well, we're progressing on our 56 Merc, and the weather's still kind of crappy, so it's kind of nice to be able to work inside the shop. We just finished putting some outer lower skins on our doors and also on the inner. They look great, turned out way better than I thought, so now it's time to do the bodywork. My favorite part of the whole process. Now we're going to start with the red door. It's a little rougher than the yellow one. I wished all the doors were like this yellow one. It's really nice shape. But, you know, 1956, most doors have got some issues. So let's go through them and tackle each one at a time. Pretty soon we're going to have some nice doors. One of the big things that can happen on a 56 is this gets bent in on the inside. This is for our rearview mirror. And then this piece here always gets bent over. So what we're going to do is we are going to take the die grinder and take off about 1/8 of an inch on the skin here. And that will allow this piece to tighten up and not have to worry about bending this over. Well, I'm just stripping the paint so I can find the dents. That's the first thing I want to do is just kind of do all the hammering and make sure all the dents are gone. And I'm using this 3M Scotch-Brite. It's purple. Man, I tell you what, I've never seen paint come off that fast ever. It is working really, really good. But once it's off, you can really kind of see where things need to be tuned up, and really brings to light what you got to do. So I'll finish this off, and then I'll just start hammering and pulling dents. Now I know you guys know how much I love this tool. You know, we've actually got quite a few dents in here. As soon as the guy gets this all cleaned up, it's like, whoa, where did all the dents come from? But it's an old door, just one at a time, and you'll get it all figured out. This one here, we got a high spot right here. Now, this happens to be right in the middle of the door. So I go hammering on this thing. It might create an oil can. So I just use the regular tip, and I'm going to shrink it. I'm going to do it on live camera, and if we screw it up, well, what can you do? I got a little bit of snow in here just to cool things down, That's working. Tight as an oil drum? No, tighter. That is really, really good. And then once we're all, once the metal's really, really tight, then you're able to just fine tune it a little bit. Yeah, I don't even have to. That is really, really good. It's amazing. It really is what you can do with this gun. Give it a try. One little high spot right there. That's it. Well, I think I got the dents where I want them. They all turned out pretty darn good. A lot more than I wanted, that's for sure. One pretty bad one right here, but we got it pretty darn close. Hey, if you have to use 40 nails, you have to use 40 nails. They're cheap. Now, one of the things I want to make sure we address, and I don't know why, but a lot of people, when they do a restoration on a door, they leave it on your edge. What ends up happening is the edge curls down because of the because you got a little bit of an overlap over here and just vibration, everything like that. It just seems to curl. One of my pet peeves. So it's really easy to fix. You just need a straight edge. Use a stir stick here, and all you do, I can see right there that I got about a 1/16 of an inch, and then all you do is just take your dolly, don't go hitting it too hard. I just use a ball peen. I prefer that. There. Now she's right on the money. A bit of a high spot right there. Address that. Well, the front side was pretty rough. Pounding out a lot of dents. Used the nail gun. and there was a lot of dents on the other side, but I want to start the bodywork on this side first. That way, you know, when I'm moving around, I'm not going to be scratching the bodywork up on the front. I'd rather do that on here. And it's going to sit here and here, so it's not really going to hurt nothing. So I'll get the bodywork done on this side first, flip it over, get the other side done, and then onto that door. Where we're going to put any body fill, I'm just going to hit it with my 24 grit. Well, the grinder can't get into all the little crevices or anything like that, so that's why we got the die grinder out, just a narrow little deburring bit. We'll just get in there. It'll help down the long run. You know, a lot of people, they just give it a quick grind, but wherever there's a spot where it's not ground, it's not going to stick. And over time, you're going to get a little bit of buildup, and eventually it's going to start to rust. So, it only takes a couple minutes. It feels so good to be able to put the Bondo on to the filler. One thing I don't know if I mentioned, you know, when you buff all your rust out of your doors, sometimes right down in the corners here it gets a little bit thick. Make sure you treat that. So I used a rust mort. Follow the directions, spray it on there, neutralize it, then you gotta neutralize the rust, then you gotta neutralize the rust mort with a little bit of water. Clean it up a little bit. Works really, really good. Just one more little thing that you can do to prevent things from coming back. They always will, but sometimes your finger's your best spatula. I'm still old school, so I like to file some of my filler. Saves a little bit of time. It's really easy to do. But these half round cheese grater files are harder to find all the time. Good ones. Now we're just working on the back here. We don't have to have it absolutely perfect. So I am using my little palm sander here, my oscillating sander. And I'm gonna actually put a little bit of two-part putty on here as well. Just one more stage so that I can just do a couple coats primer and then be done, ready for paint. So there's nothing wrong with using a little mechanical help. If it really counts, you know, let's say we're doing something up top, you might want to do it by hand, but for the most part this is going to do just fine and dandy. And of course we're going to have to do some hand work a little bit here and there, but let's get at her. Missed a dent. Not gonna worry about that. Let that dry up, but anywhere around my paint now, because I want to put a little bit of two-part putty on, I want to make sure it's all sanded, so I'm just got a little bit of 150 grit here. Gonna take my time and get everything done. Got some rough stuff in here, I might sand that a little bit, but basically I'm not interested in priming everything. I'll just do a final sand and then go right to paint. So we'll do the same thing around the lip over there, make sure there's nothing wrong there, and along here as well. Hopefully there's nothing there. Anyway, that's the next step, just a little bit of sanding. Oh, now plug her in. Now we can just lay down a thin coat of our putty here, two-part putty. See how these holes here for the bolts, interior bolts, are all dished in? Let me show you what I do to sand those out. So I've got a tapering bit. That's just for tapering holes for metal, wood. And it's pretty close to that. But if you do that, of course, you're just going to wreck your hole. So what I do, I just put a little piece of Scotch-Brite on the end of the bit. Don't press too hard. Look at that. Beautiful. You know, those times in life where you just know where you were when something special happened, like when Elvis died. I hope this is one of those moments for you, because I think it's a great, great trick. Two-part putty is pretty well dry. Set up. Now, time to start grinding. Fill in on this side. I'm hoping we can do maybe half and half. We'll see how it goes. Maybe thirds. We'll start with the bottom. So we'll grind that. Use a die grinder to get into the tight spots. And start filling. Exciting day. Here's another tip for you. Don't use your grinder on your edge. You could really do some damage. Just put 40 grit on your sander. just finishing up here on the filler, and man, it really went well. It's amazing how it doesn't matter what you do, you know, the body work is only 25% of the job, 75% is prep. Same if you're welding, same if you're doing anything. It seems like the prep is the big job. So this only took a couple hours to put this down. So now I'm going to skim the whole thing with the 2-part putty, and that'll, you know, we're sanding this way, that way. There's going to be a little bit of this everywhere, and that'll lay it out, and that should really do a nice job of flattening it all out. Now, I could go directly to primer here, but that's going to take a lot of coats of primer. Slower, more expensive. If I just give it a quick skim, sand her down, and then 2 coats of primer should just about do her good. And then you're going to see me on the, when I get my, if I'm doing a big skim like this with the 2-part putty, I will just wait till it gets hard, and then I will actually stroke it with a little bit of 40 grit, and that's going to even it all out, take my high spots out, because that stuff does get pretty hard. So if you can sand it when it's just a little bit soft, you're going to save yourself a lot of time. I just give this thing a quick sand with some 80 grit. Boy, I wished all the doors were as good a shape as this. Wow. I got one little tiny dent right there, one guy right there. And of course, around here, and we'll put a little bit of filler just on the edges here, where we do a little bit of pounding. Huh. That's good shape. Okay. Now I know what I'm up against. I don't really need to strip this. Just give it a nice sand with some 80 grit. We're going to prime it anyway. I think all this stuff here looks good. So we'll flip it over and do the body work on that side first. We'll get her done. Now I just got this all filed here, and it's still pretty soft. That's when I want to start sanding it. A lot of guys like to let it set up real nice and hard. I haven't got that kind of time to sand, so it's a lot easier sanding when it's soft. If it plugs up a little bit, just take a rod, give it a little tap, there we go. Well, the bodywork on this door turned out absolutely beautiful. Really on the inside there wasn't really anything to do other than our weld. Yeah, this door was in really nice shape. I'm not gonna, like all that sanding over there, I will do that right at the very end before we paint. But, excuse me, we need to put primer on this. So I want to make sure that, you know, all of our scratches and everything are feathered out on our paint. We're going to go with 150 grit. And we do have a couple little pinholes here. I might address them now. You can do it after you prime as well. There'll probably be a couple more that show up after you prime. But we might be able to get a couple of these now, because they're just exposed and it's easy right now. So this door turned out really nice. Can't believe that. Never ever know. Okay, I'll do a little bit of feathering, fill up some pinholes, and I think this door is done. Well, we're ready to do the inside. Now, of course, I'm not really worried about getting it perfect. The inside is usually pretty rough anyway, you know, with spot welds and just kind of being crooked to begin with. So I'm going to do this probably mechanically for the most part, and you know, I'll finish it up a little bit with maybe some 150 on a block, just to kind of make sure it's just, you know, as good as we can get it. But other than that, it's turned out really good. We'll flip it over, and that'll be the last side. I actually did the yellow door first. It'll show up probably last, but doesn't matter. It was on the bench when I got here this morning, so I got done first. All right, fun part. Well, we're ready to finally do our final sand on our two-part putty here. Now, yesterday I sanded it with the 40 grit first. I really encourage you to give that a try, because it really saves you a lot of time. And make sure you catch it when it's a little bit, you know, still a little soft. I may have waited a little too long here, and I had to work a little extra hard, break a sweat. You want to do that. So I'm going to use a guide coat. That's going to tell me everything. Now, I wouldn't want to put the guide coat on first. You can if you really want to. It'll help you, you know, if you've got some questionable areas. But pretty confident about what I got going on here. So we'll just do a guide coat. And now I'm going to sand this with the 100 grit. And I might just really lightly hit it with 150. A lot of guys, you know, they say, oh, you gotta keep sanding it down, keep sanding it down. Well, if you do that, you get to a certain spot and you're looking perfect. Well, you sand it again and now you're down. Now you can start getting crooked bodywork. It's not really worth it. It's all about layering. We got our filler, we got our two-part. We're gonna have our primer, our sealer, our paint, and that's how we're going to layer it. That's what the primer's for, to look after some of these deep scratches, so we don't have to worry about going down to 220 on our bodywork at all. Now I'm going to use my longest board. We got her done. Wow, this is one of those big jobs. Well, there's still a lot to do. We still got to prime it, of course, and then quite a few hours of sanding just to get them ready for paint. But the bulk of the big work is all done on the doors, and I couldn't be happier the way they turned out. They're awesome. So, next step, take them out to my other shop. I'm going to prime them, and then we can sand them and paint them. And then that will be the next step. Then we can button up the whole cab and get it ready, and then all we have left to do is the box. I'm getting kind of excited. Alright, see you in my next shop, and thanks for watching. It's a big job, we got her done.